Greetings, maniacs, New Englanders, and everyone else that's concerned about what's going on here in the state of Maine. I think it's a great state. I was born and bred here. I did travel and move on beyond the state boundaries. I've seen 46 of the 48 of the 50 states. Alaska and Hawaii are the last two that I need to see at the current moment. Beyond that, I've seen at least 11 other countries, and now that I'm back here in the great state of Maine, I realize that there's a deficit where we don't have a lot of information when there's a lot of big things happening in the state. So I keep waiting and I keep looking around and I keep expecting, I guess, someone else to fill in the gap. But then when no one does, I was always taught that if you see something that needs to be done and it's not getting done, you pick up the broom, you start sweeping. So, in a sense, that's what I'm here to do. I see a deficit, I see some dirt, and I gotta get to action. I gotta start sweeping. So that's what leads me here today. Something that's been increasingly on my mind is the ballot that's coming up in November. On Tuesday, November 7th, 2023, this year, we have to vote. And there's quite a few votes that are going through in this personal level, state level. We have 8 different questions. And to be honest, I don't hear a whole lot being talked about them. I ask other people that I work with, other people that I commute around. I try and get their opinions on what's going on. And other than that, I read a few articles, but there's not a whole lot of coverage. And I think that these 8 questions are going to impact our lives greatly. So I think that we need to start being aware and start paying attention and start learning what's going on within our own state, our own community, and being active participants in it. Instead of sitting back and hoping someone else will do something, we all just need to take more action and do the things that we know that we're called to do. So here in Maine, again, this is me news for me. It's a play on words. Maine news for me. So that's where the name comes from, and that's where it derives from. Me, the initials for Maine, M-E. Me news for me. So Maine news for me. All right, so coming up November 7th, question 1. Do you want to bar some quasi-governmental entities and all consumer-owned electric utilities from taking on more than $1 billion in debt unless they get statewide voter approval? Question 2. Question 1 was citizens initiative. So citizens initiative is question 1. Question 2. Okay, so I should have read through this more thoroughly before I started responding to it. So question 2 is also a citizens initiative. Do you want to bar foreign governments and entities that they own, control, or influence from making campaign contributions or financing communications for or against candidates or ballot questions? Some of these are going to trick people up. I don't want to make too many comments. I just want to read the questions, but just reading them out loud, unbiased, non-Republican, non-Democrat, there's some confusion already. Question 3 is also a citizens initiative. Do you want to create a new power company governed by an elected board to acquire and operate existing for-profit electricity transmission and distribution facilities in Maine? That's question 3. And question 3 is a big one on everyone's mind this year. I mean, there's some years where we only have maybe 3 questions. Now we have 8. And to me, that feels a little sketchy. And then the wording on everything, I know that the wording is particular and specific for very specific reasons. However, as a working blue-collar individual, I mean, I work 3rd shift, so I'm in my evening time, even though I'm recording this at 10 a.m. That being said, I study this. I am somewhat fluent in what's going on. However, even there, it's tricky, and that causes issues. So an understandability to the law should also be mandated. A jargon on a deep law level, on a deep legal level, I can understand. There are nuances, technicalities, very specific case-by-case issues that need to be addressed. However, when we're addressing the public should be addressed in such a straightforward manner that whether you're working, taking care of children, going to school, or all 3, you can understand the fluency to the question. So far, these questions don't have the fluency that I would hope for. So question 4. Do you want to require vehicle manufacturers to standardize onboard diagnostic systems and provide remote access to those systems and mechanical data to owners and independent repair facilities? Not studying some of this stuff, I'm confused. And I'm glad I'm looking into this as of October 11th, because if I was trying to answer this day of November 7th, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. I don't think people should operate where they vote off the cuff with immediate responses, immediate emotional responses. That being said, as someone that works 3rd shift, as someone that is a full-time worker, it is so hard to maintain personal life, maintain social life, maintain work life, maintain all these different avenues, and stay up on things that are very relevant and very important in our lives. So I don't know that it's people that I don't know that people don't want to vote. I think that people are so overwhelmed. And in some part, this legal language seems intentionally to overwhelm. And I'm saying that as someone that has an associate's in paralegal studies. I know that's not much, but I have formally studied into the law. And it can be very confusing at times. And on a legal level, on a professional level, on a career level, I very much understand that. However, we're talking about day-to-day average voters. And even having studied some in the law, these questions are not as straightforward as most would hope. Okay, so now question 5 deals with constitutional amendment. Do you favor amending the Constitution of Maine to change the time period for judicial review of the validity of written petitions from within 100 days from the date of filing to within 100 business days from the date of filing of a written petition in the office of the Secretary of State, with an exception for petitions filed within 30 calendar days before or after a general election? That was all one sentence. That's a mouthful. All of these are going to have to be broken down after. This video is just going to be getting out what Maine has on our ballot, the different questions, and what those questions say and are about. I'm going to reserve any more commentary. Well, I can't promise that, to be honest. But I will reserve thorough, in-depth explanations. Right now, just trying to read the different questions. So we have question 6. Do you favor amending the Constitution of Maine to require that all of the provisions of the Constitution be included in the official printed copies of the Constitution prepared by the Secretary of State? That feels loaded. That feels loaded. Question 7, it's also a constitutional amendment. Do you favor the amending, do you favor amending the Constitution of Maine to remove a provision requiring a circulator of citizens' initiative or people's veto petition to be a resident of Maine and a registered voter in Maine, requirements that have been ruled unconstitutional in federal court? Again, that feels loaded. Each of these doesn't feel like there's a simple yes or no. And they're not even about money. A lot of times it's about, do you want to spend X amount of money on X position or X kind of requirement within the state? This is different, and it's, to be honest, a little bit scary. I'm over 30, so I've voted a few times in my life, and the questions here and now have me raising my eyebrows. Question 8, the last question and also a constitutional amendment. Do you favor amending the Constitution of Maine to remove a provision prohibiting a person under guardianship for reasons of mental illness from voting for governor, senators, and representatives, which the United States District Court for the District of Maine found violates the United States Constitution and federal law? I mean, if it already violates the Constitution, then why is it up for debate? Okay, so trying to remove biases from this video, those were the 8 different questions that were going to be on the 2023 ballot, which takes place on Tuesday, November 7th. Voting, to me, has always been a very important act. It's not something that people around the globe are guaranteed. It's something that our ancestors had to fight for, and because they fought so heavily for it, I'm going to actively participate. I don't even participate because I feel that it necessarily makes a difference. I participate because in a democracy, I truly believe it's important. And with muscles in the human body, if you don't use specific muscles in the human body, they will atrophy. Once they atrophy, it is so much harder to get them back and going. In that analogy, I would rather continue to vote even if it doesn't seem as it counts much, because if I stop voting and it's taken away from me, it will be so much harder to fight for and get back on the other end. I'm all about freedom and liberty. And I'm a Mainer through and through. I was born and bred here in this great state of vacation land. Dirigo is deeply stamped in my soul, and that's a Latin phrase for I lead. As as Maine goes, so goes the nation, and I believe that. Maine had some of the first women senators, had first legalization of marijuana, had some of the first legalization of gay marriage, which is deep in my heart as I am a homosexual couple with my fiance. And so freedom and liberty and the American dream and dear ago, I lead, vacation land, Maine, I'm all for it. I hope you all will turn in for more. This was just the referendum election that's coming on Tuesday, November 7th in 2023. Obviously, it'll happen across the nation on that day, but each state will vary on what they vote for. So this was just a Maine Citizens Guide to the referendum election, brought to you by Me to Me News. Me News for Me, brought to you by Andrew Hoagland. I hope you all have a good night, and we'll turn in soon.